Hi, my name is Desmond Surratt, and I am the president of JUFJ's Board of Directors. I'm glad to be with you all tonight to kick off the 2022 Heschel Vision Awards. The great thing about helping to lead Jews United for Justice is that I get to watch us, along with our coalition partners, prove over and over again that our movements can win, and we could be part of making life better for everyone in DC and Maryland. We come together to celebrate every year at the Heschel Vision Awards because the work that we do together makes a difference, especially in chaotic times like these, in times when national politics can seem beyond our control. We need to lift each other up and recognize the difference we have made locally so that we can stay fueled for the fights that are yet to come. This year has been a momentous one for JUFJ and our partners. Thousands of us have come together online and in person to make our own voices heard and to amplify the voices of our coalition partners. And our collective power made the world a better place. As you will hear, we helped to win paid family leave and medical leave in Maryland, helped to expand paid and family and medical leave in DC. We worked together to prevent evictions and to demand safe, stable, affordable housing for everyone. Together with our partners, we have made real concrete change that will impact the lives of millions of people in our region. But that's not all. While we work to win change today, we're committed to building a strong and lasting organization and community that will be able to make sustained change for the long haul. This year, our organization remains engaged in the continuous work of becoming a more anti-racist organization through outside assessment and internal reflection and action. We're also taking steps to ensure that JUFJ is a sustainable and supportive workplace for the organizers and other staff who give so much of themselves to this work. These opportunities to ensure that we are living up to our values and commitments are a gift. Living up to our values and commitments is a phrase that perfectly describes the three honorees we are celebrating this evening. Tonight, we honor two individuals and one foundation who have been critical to the success of some of our most hard-fought campaigns. But we are also here to honor all of the thousands of activists in our region, JUFJers and partners alike, who have spent this year making change in DC and Maryland. So let's celebrate what we have achieved in the past 12 months so we can be ready for the next 12 months of work. I'm looking forward to seeing what else we can do together. Now I'd like to introduce Rabbi Aaron Alexander. Rabbi Alexander is a former JUFJ board member and a senior rabbi at Addis Israel Congregation here in DC, and he will be sharing some Torah with us tonight.
Good evening. What an honor it is to be able to present a little bit of Torah for Jews United for Justice and the Heschel Vision Awards. It is critical that we take time to honor those in our community who have elevated organizing and justice to its rightful place, which for us, in particular in the DMV area, is at the center. Why? And how does justice get to the center? There's a famous teaching from Pirkei Avot, from the ethics of our ancestors, Aseh lecha rab uknei lecha chaver, that one ought to make for themselves a teacher and acquire for themselves a friend. And one of the ambiguous parts of this teaching is that chaver, friend, isn't defined. And when there is a word that is ambiguously offered in our tradition, it is simply potential for an interpreter to insert into it the meaning they find relevant. And in this case, Maimonides, the Rambam, asked the question, what do you mean by friend? Well, he says, I'll help you understand. There are three kinds of friends in the world. There are friends who are befriended for the sake of a particular benefit. These types of friends often exist in transactional relationships, business partners. I do something for you, you do something for me, and in some way, maybe we benefit together. There are also friends, the Rambam says, who come together for the sake of satisfaction. A friend that I trust, who I can share my deepest secrets with, or a friend that I go out to concerts with, and that is the basis of our relationship. But he says the highest level of friendship, and the one that I think is pertinent for us, tonight and for all of us moving forward is what he calls a chaver lidvar na'aleh. It is a friend who is befriended for the sake of a higher purpose. He describes this friend or these friends such that umatratam le'inyan echad v'hu asiyat hatov v'yirtze kol echad mahem lehe'azer b'chavero k'dei lehazig oto hatov lishnehem yachad v'zeu hachaver shetziva b'kniyato. A friend befriended for the sake of a higher purpose is where two people come together to focus on a single objective, tov, to put goodness, to create goodness in the world. And this is precisely what the Mishnah, when it says acquire for yourself a friend, this is what the Mishnah is getting at. Each one of us has a uniqueness and a power in the world for which transformation is possible. What makes organizing unique and what makes it distinctly Jewish, even when a group of Jews come together to organize, is that it takes the possibility of one and turns it exponential through two. The relationships we build in the context of our organizing, the one-to-one conversations that become the very foundation for what it means to build power through a group of people, they are not simply for the sake of getting to know one another, though that's important. They are for the sake of tov, of goodness, of what it is 2 and then 4 and then 8 and then 8,000 can bring to the world, and how the more relationships built on the foundation of a shared goal, tov, goodness, change is possible. And we have seen this over and over and over again. So if you are participating tonight, if you are in the room tonight, you have likely involved yourself in a relationship whose goal is simply to transform together. And it's possible it has grown into something more. You may now go to concerts together, but at its core, and what is truly enough for our community, for our cities, what is enough is that when we come together, we allow our vision and our imagination to help us see the transformation that is right there in front of us. Mizal Tov to our awardees tonight. Thank you to Jews United for Justice for continuing to include me in your work, in your festivities, and in your vision for our communities. Erev Tov. Good night.
My name is Courtney Cooperman. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a member of the Housing Security Working Group of JUFJ. I joined JUFJ a few months after I moved to DC in fall of 2020, because in my professional life, I was primarily working on federal policy, but I wanted to understand what was happening locally, to be a good neighbor, to get involved in my community, and to do so in the context of Jewish life. This year saw tremendous victories for the Under 3 DC campaign, which works to ensure that every child in DC has access to high-quality early childhood education, and that all early childhood educators are paid well for the critical work that they do. In January, the DC Council passed legislation to send licensed childcare providers checks for at least $10,000, an immediate pay raise of about 25% for many providers. As Councilmember Louis George put it, this directly impacts the everyday lives of predominantly Black and Brown women who have been underpaid for decades and who are now much closer to being paid what they deserve. Much of our Under 3 organizing in the spring and summer was about asking the parents in our community to help spread the word about this supplemental pay so their childcare providers could get the money that was waiting for them. And in another tremendous victory for DC's early childhood educators, starting in January, health insurance will be totally free for everyone who works in a childcare facility, as well as for the family members of educators who live in DC. This year, our Housing Security Working Group joined a number of campaigns led by our partners. As members of the Way Home campaign, we work to support unhoused residents who are being evicted from their tents and encampments. We joined the Cancel Rent campaign, and we advocated with the Reclaim Rent Control campaign to help tenants facing unaffordable rents after the end of the COVID moratorium on rent increases. During the DC budget cycle, we joined other members of the Fair Budget Coalition to push for more housing vouchers, funding to prevent evictions, and funding to build new, deeply affordable housing. While few of our budget asks were fully funded, we did help secure almost $450 million for the Housing Production Trust Fund, 760 permanent housing vouchers with comprehensive support from case managers, and legislation to seal eviction records. In the fall, we signed onto the campaign for the Green New Deal for Housing bill, introduced by Councilmember Janice Lewis-George, and we organized a Sukkot-themed gathering at the JCC to learn about social housing, environmental justice in housing, and more. We also supported partners calling on the DC Council to amend emergency legislation establishing the Office for Migrant Services, so as not to create a two-tiered system of serving unhoused DC residents based on immigration status. This year, JUFJ and our partners worked on a number of campaigns for economic justice and labor rights. As an anchor organization of the DC Paid Leave Coalition, we helped push for a dramatic expansion to the groundbreaking Paid Family and Medical Leave program. Starting on October 1st, DC Paid Leave expanded to 12 weeks for parental leave, medical leave, or family caregiving leave, plus 2 weeks of prenatal leave. This is a tremendous increase for the program's initial paid leave benefits. We would like to thank everyone who helped make this possible, including our council champions like Alyssa Silverman, all of our coalition partners in the DC Paid Leave Coalition, and especially all of the working families who have tirelessly advocated for this important program. We also joined DC domestic workers in their campaign to pass a Domestic Workers Bill of Rights, which would grant domestic workers many of the same workplace protections that other DC employees are guaranteed. We held events, mobilized our base, and lobbied council members to move this important bill forward. Just before Rosh Hashanah, we visited council members' offices with apples and honey to call on them to make 5783 a sweet new year for domestic workers. We continued our advocacy with the Excluded Workers Coalition, who have been pushing for COVID relief funds for workers, mostly undocumented workers, who aren't eligible for federal relief. Through the DC budget process, we helped secure $20 million for excluded workers. Finally, we signed on to the campaign for Initiative 82, a ballot measure to raise wages for tipped workers. When DC voters passed Initiative 77 4 years ago to do just this, the council overturned the vote immediately. Tipped workers in DC frequently face wage theft, harassment at work, and other challenges. Passing Initiative 82 will help combat many of these. We and our partners had an additional legislative win in July when the council passed the Clean Hands Certification Equity Amendment Act, which reforms the district's traffic fines and fees system, so people who can't afford to pay fines don't lose their driver's licenses. We successfully advocated for an amendment that would have significantly watered down the bill to be voted down. Also this summer, we said goodbye to Sarah Novick, our DC director. She is now the director of organizing at TRUA, the Rabbinic Call for Human Rights. While we were sad to see Sarah go, we were thrilled to welcome our new DC director, Yael Shafritz. We were also delighted that Jenna Israel, outgoing Avodah Corps member, stayed on as a full-time DC community organizer. And we are happy to welcome this year's Avodah Corps member, Emily Carnival, to the DC team.